Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at the ultimate free hit team for Gameweek 25. Now, usually after the games at the weekend, I upload a transfer plans video where I share a little bit about what I'm thinking about doing with my team, but I thought today let's take a look at the free hit team for Gameweek 25 because a couple of us are finding ourselves in tough situations where we may have to take a couple of hits, and then some of us are actually thinking about free hitting in Gameweek 25, which does have its pros and cons, which we'll go into in a little bit. So hopefully this video is helpful for those of you who are thinking about free hitting, and if you are on the fence right now, hopefully this also gives you a little bit of clarity as well, and then some of the players that you can potentially bring in will be in the free hit team as well. So this could be useful for a wide range of you guys. So if you guys do enjoy this one, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So very quickly on this slide right now, let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons first. So the pros of free hitting in Gameweek 25 is obviously right now, if you are having a couple of blank players, specifically those from Brighton and Brentford. So I'm talking about the likes of Ivan Toney, Estupinian, Mitoma, even Solly March as well, right? So if you already have these players, then actually you are facing quite a tough situation where there are a lot of blankers in your team, and then there could be a cause for you to actually free hit in Gameweek 25, because if you already have these players, you are quite prepared for double Gameweek 27. So a little bit on double Gameweek 27 is that basically we know a couple of teams will double there. Brighton, Brentford, Crystal Palace and Southampton. The ones with the standout fixtures would obviously be Brighton and Brentford that we're focusing on right now. Now there has been a couple of news, a little bit of news that has gone out recently that there will be real strikes on the day that Brighton play Crystal Palace, which is the rescheduled game for the double Gameweek 27 fixtures. So essentially some news has come out and it has sparked a little bit of concern around the community for FPL. But basically, what Brighton have done is they have responded and they've requested to move this fixture of the double Gameweek 27 game against Crystal Palace 24 hours earlier. Right, this is according to The Athletic. So basically, I think at this point in time, it seems as if double Gameweek 27 for Brighton and Brentford would still go ahead. Right, so we can go with a little bit of confidence with this news that Brighton will still double in 27. Right, so keeping these players in your team and essentially free hitting in 25 and then reverting back to your original squad with players like Ivan Toney, Solly March, Mitoma, etc. You are already ahead of the curve in terms of your preparation for double Gameweek 27, and in that case as well, you can then choose to add a few additional players from these teams as well to even to prepare your team for Gameweek 27 even better. Right, so that's one of the pros of free hitting in Gameweek 25, and on top of that as well, there is quite a lot of upside when it comes to free hitting in a double game week as opposed to a single game week. Now, a little bit of explanation on this is basically that you are free hitting in a double game week, so you bring in double game week players, and the ceiling in general when you are free hitting in a double game week is much higher than the ceiling for a single game week free hit. So essentially, these are the pros that we are talking about when we are free hitting game week 25, right? But let's talk a little bit about the cons here, which is something that we do have to consider when we are using the free hit in game week 25. Now, one of it is the opportunity cost. This one is pretty straightforward, right? So at this point in time, we don't really know the landscape of FPL moving forward. Now we know a couple of things that Ben Crellin has already confirmed, that Game Week 28 will be a relatively big blank, right? 32 will also be a relatively big blank. 29 will be a big double. 34, 37 would also be double game weeks as well. But at this point in time, we don't really know the fixtures, we don't know the landscape moving forward, and we don't know how to best use our chips in those tough situations, right? So by using a free hit in Game Week 25, we essentially are missing out on the chance of maybe using it in later game weeks where we may need it a little bit more, right? So that's the opportunity cost portion. And when it comes to the snowball effect, which is the second point I want to talk about, right, how it affects the overall chip strategy. Basically, by using your free hit in Game Week 25, there is a snowball effect on your overall chip strategy. So what I mean by this is, by free hitting Game Week 25, you essentially already remove the free hit chip from your plethora of chips. And basically, without this free hit chip, you are limiting yourself to some strategies moving forward. So take for example, in Game Week 29, there will be a relatively big double there. In Game Week 28, that's also a relatively big blank. Right? So without the free hit, you essentially kind of force yourself to dead end your team into Game Week 28 and then wildcard in 29, when you could actually want to wildcard in 33 instead, and then bench boost into 34, right? So hopefully that's clear enough. And basically, when you free hit now, right, there is an impact on your chip strategy moving forward as well. So right now, let's take a look at the general structure for a free hit team in Game Week 25. So on to the fixtures, because obviously if we are free hitting in Game Week 25, we need to pay close attention to the fixtures, who's doubling, who has good single game week fixtures as well, so that we don't miss out on players who could potentially haul even though they do have a single game week only. Right, so on the left hand side of the screen, you see at the bottom is Arsenal, Everton, and then Liverpool and Wolves. Those are actually the double Game Week 25 rescheduled fixtures, and the fixtures above them are the pre-existing Game Week 25 fixtures. So one look and you already see Spurs versus Chelsea is probably a game that you want to avoid. So you probably wouldn't want to go for Harry Kane, João Felix, etc. You wouldn't go for defensive assets from those teams as well. So I'd say if you're free hitting Game Week 25, you can avoid Chelsea and Spurs. And also, we also realize that Arsenal and Liverpool are the ones that double and do have very good fixtures for both of the doubles as well. So Leicester for Arsenal and Leicester for Arsenal as the first game, and then Everton as the second game. Now for Liverpool as well, Crystal Palace and then Wolves. So very good fixtures for them there, right? But a single game week team that we cannot miss out on is also Man City, because they play Bournemouth away. So that is also a fixture that we need to pay close attention to and make sure that we cover some of the assets from Man City. And then, of course, the teams that double, aside from Arsenal and Liverpool, we have to have some coverage there as well. So those would, so that would be Wolves and Everton, right? So going by the general structure right beside me right now, I've played around with a couple of free hit teams, and I generally move back to this structure most of the time. So I'm talking about the starting 11, right? So 3 from Arsenal, right? 3 from Liverpool. So that would already give you 6 doublers from good teams, basically, that have good fixtures as well. And then 2 players from Man City. That will help you to take into account the Bournemouth game, right? That Man City could potentially score a couple of goals there as well. And then 1 Wolves asset and 1 Everton asset to cover their doubles as well. So 3 plus 3 plus 2 and then 1 and 1, right? So it basically gives you 10 players here, and then you cover that last player who is your keeper, right? So the structure in general would tend towards this, I would feel, right, for a free hit 25, and most of the drafts that I've come up with tend to come back to this basic structure, right? So hopefully this general structure helps you guys kind of play around with your teams and just basically make sure that you capture all the fixtures that you would want in a free hit 25. So on to the free hit 25 team, and I've kept the squad value very affordable at 100.3 million. So I'm sure a lot of you guys who are free hitting in Game Week 25 can afford this team, right? And basically the structure, as I mentioned just now, would be that same structure right now. So we see here 3 Liverpool players, Salah, Trent, and Gakpo. 3 Arsenal players, Nketiah, Saka, and Odegaard. 2 Man City players, Mahrez and Haaland. And then beside Trent, we have 1 from Wolves, Dawson, and 1 from Everton, Tarkowski. And then for the keeper, I've gone for Pickford, right? So in general, if you take a look at this team, the structure is really good, right? It's a 3-5-2 formation, and there is essentially 9 doublers and 2 single game week players, both from Man City's, in Mahrez and Haaland, right? And if you look to the bench as well, if you are free hitting in Game Week 25, you don't really have to have a very strong bench, just a good couple of first and second bench options, and then the last on the bench can even be I have Ashby right now, who's at 3.8 as a defensive asset, but he doesn't even have a fixture. But that's because I just want to keep the squad value really affordable. If you want to be safe, if you have more cash with you, you can choose to have maybe a doubler in that position as well, right? But basically, this is the team that I think would be really good to tackle game week 25 if you are free hitting, right? So I've gone for Pickford in goal, Dawson, Trent, and Tarkowski. Now I'll cover the defensive assets first. Now Pickford, I've chosen him because even though they play Arsenal away, right, which is a tough fixture, I think in general Pickford would be picking up a lot of saves in that game, and I also favour them to keep a clean sheet against Aston Villa at home as well. At Goodison, they have already kept two clean sheets since Sean Dyche took over, right? So they do you do have to remember as well that they won Arsenal 1-0 at Goodison as well, right? So it is looking like their home form is picking up as well, right? So they could be turning a corner, and I do like Aston Villa at home as a fixture defensively for Everton, and that's why I've gone for Pickford, and I do think like both games added together he could get quite a good score there, and we also have Tarkowski because obviously in terms of attacking threat, Tarkowski has a really good header in him, right? We already saw it against Arsenal, and he has already used it to good effect against Liverpool, even though Everton lost 2-0 to Liverpool, but Tarkowski did show a lot of aerial threat from corners as well. So having him in this double game week 25, your free hit team basically would be able to cover this Everton defense in Pickford and Tarkowski, but also goal threat from Tarkowski that could give you a big haul there as well. And then for Trent, I think Trent at this point in time is one of the key assets that a lot of people who aren't even on a free hit, if you're not even on a free hit, I think you would still be looking to bring Trent in, because moving forward, Liverpool's fixtures are picking up. They look like they've turned a corner. Crystal Palace away, Wolves at home look like really juicy fixtures for Trent, who already has picked up a double-digit haul in Game Week 24 as we speak, right? So at this point in time, Trent, I would say, is essential for this free hit team. And then Dawson to cover the Wolves defensive asset. And also at this point in time, it's also good to consider that Dawson has good goal threat as well, right? He already scored a header in one of the games recently as well, right? So Fulham away, Liverpool away. I'm not expecting Liverpool away to be a very easy fixture for Dawson, but Fulham away, he could keep a clean sheet there. And then, who knows what happens in the game against Liverpool. Right, so in the midfield, we're going to go with Salah, Saka, Mahrez, Odegaard, and Gakpo. Now, I'll speak a little bit about the Liverpool assets first, why I've gone for Gakpo instead of Nunes, which I'm sure a lot of people would be going for, or may even have already brought him in. But basically, Darwin Nunes is nursing a little bit of a shoulder injury, right? So at this point, going for Gakpo, I feel would be a little bit safer. And in terms of where Nunes plays, right, there was a little bit of speculation that Jota coming back would take a little bit of minutes off Darwin Nunes as well, but Gakpo kind of plays in the number 9 role right now, so I think his minutes are a little bit more secure than Darwin Nunes, and he has picked up a couple of goals recently as well, right? Two consecutive games he's already scored in both of them, right? So it's looking like if he keeps this up, right, he could be one to haul in 25 as well. Good for minutes, and that's why I've gone for Gakpo as the third Liverpool asset. And then Salah, obviously we're going to want him, and I think for those of us who aren't on a free hit in Game Week 25, it should be an easy swap from Kevin De Bruyne to Salah. But obviously if we are free hitting, I think definitely we bring Salah in, right? Crystal Palace away, Wolves at home, those are fixtures that he could get hauls in, right? And then Saka, Mahrez, and Odegaard. Now Saka and Odegaard, I would say that at this point both of them are still very essential in a lot of teams, basically because most of Arsenal's attack actually goes through both of them, right? Much more so compared to Trossard, compared to Martinelli, who was benched in Game Week 24, even though he picked up a goal at the end, right? So at this point, Saka and Odegaard, I would say, are really essential Arsenal assets. And then I've gone for Nketiah up top. We'll cover him later. And we'll talk a bit about Mahrez now. So basically, Mahrez, I do want him in this team if I'm free hitting, basically because as a Mahrez owner myself, right, I knew that he was going to get some minutes taken away from him, either against Nottingham Forest or Bournemouth away, simply because there is the RB Leipzig game between Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. But now that we know he has already missed out the whole game against Forest, I actually fancy him to play against RB Leipzig and also play against Bournemouth away. And when that happens, we know when Mahrez plays, he does really get a lot of attacking output from the chances that he gets and the chances that he creates as well, right? So in general, Mahrez is a player that I would want, and I think I'm quite confident of his minutes in Gameweek 25. Now, up front, we're going to go with Haaland and Nketiah. Haaland, I think we no need to speak much there. We definitely will want him, especially against Bournemouth away. And Nketiah, something to consider, why I've gone for Nketiah ahead of maybe an Arsenal defender is because I feel like Nketiah has been getting good chances. Now, in the game against Aston Villa, right, that Arsenal won 4-2, Nketiah actually created a lot of chances, and he actually got 3 big chances himself as well. So owners can actually feel a little bit hard done by not to get any returns from Nketiah. But I do feel like there is still returns in store for Nketiah in Gameweek 25, and that's why I've gone for him. And to be fair, Arsenal have looked a little shaky at the back as well, so I'd rather go for a third Arsenal attacker. Right, and on the bench, we have Iversen, Kilman, Nonto, and Ashby. Now, Iversen is basically a very cheap keeper that you probably won't use. Ashby, last on the bench, is also someone that you won't use. So, defender, first on the bench would be Kilman, and he would come in if any of the players in Gameweek 25 that are in the starting 11 right now happen to not feature. But I think Kilman, if he comes in, he does have guaranteed minutes. That's one of the things. And also, against Fulham, I do expect a clean sheet there. Right, so Liverpool away, same goes, pretty much the same for Dawson as well. I think anything can happen in a Liverpool game, right? But the chunk of the points I feel will come from the Fulham game. Now, as for the second bench option, it will be a forward. Now, Nonto against Southampton at home. And basically, this is just to cover Leeds against Southampton, because it is looking like Leeds could do quite well. Now, attackingly, Leeds have looked pretty decent, right? So I would think that Nonto would be the pick of the bunch, and he's pretty cheap as well, 5 mil, right? But I don't think we would use any of these bench options, because looking at the starting 11 here is really strong. 9 doublers, and then we have Mahrez and Haaland as the single game week players. Now, a little bit about captaincy before we call it a day for the video. And basically, I think at this point in time, I'm leaning towards Saka ahead of Salah. And my reason is because the form that Saka has shown recently is really good. Now, both of them are on penalties, so we can take that aside. And in terms of the fixtures, I think Leicester away seems like a fixture that a lot of goals could come there, right, for Arsenal, right? So in general, I think that the fixtures for Saka will be a little bit more explosive than those for Salah. And also, when you include form, you include the XG and XA that Saka has been putting out as opposed to Salah. I think he is someone that I would captain ahead of Salah at this point in time. Right, so hopefully this Gameweek 25 free hit team helps those of you guys who are intending to free hit, but also some of you guys who aren't, who currently are on the fence, and also those of you guys who are just looking for transfers or players to bring in to tackle Gameweek 25. Hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow for my transfer plans video. Alright, bye bye.